Okay to move.
Now I
Chef
can hear it.
Chef Mimi, thank you for being on the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me.
Ah, man, listen, you're looking fabulous. So talk to us a little bit. I've done some research on you. You're doing some good things, but for our viewers, tell us a little about your story, how you got into the game, what are you doing, and then we'll go into some other deep dive questions.
Okay. So I'm an OG in this business. I've been in the food and wine space for over 20 years, graduated from the Culinary Arts Academy in San Francisco, worked under some really great chefs, and also was a executive chef for the Willie Mays restaurant chains. And went into, started to see like there wasn't a huge tribe of Black chefs that or just ethnic food philosophies that were like put out there and celebrated. And so when I was in school, I really struggled to like figure out what my food philosophies were, because it was just like salt, pepper, butter, more around the French cuisine. And I was like, where's the spices? Like, where's the flavor? And so moving into down the line years later, I came up with the concept in 2006 to do a show called Bringing It to the Table, which is
Whoa. Before we jump on that, because there's a lot
okay.
of more dope stuff you achieved. So, one, what got you into culinary?
Well, I've always wanted to be a chef and work in a restaurant. And
Okay.
ever since I was 5 years old, in kindergarten, my dream was to own a restaurant and a hotel.
Okay, that's dope. That's big dreams. I love it. So then you get into culinary school, San Fran. You're learning French techniques, but I think what you didn't know back then was you're going to get the advantage of learning the the modern techniques and applying it to your comfort food, or our comfort food, as you said it earlier, right? Because that's what
Hmm.
I like, is that when I learn from top chefs, like the mentor, that's what we do. Then we apply it to what we grew up with and see what we can kind of bring it to that white linen space, they call it, right? How long were you cooking in the industry in your career before you said, you know what, I want to go on my own? Because we inspire entrepreneurs on this show.
Okay. I think what like struggling to figure out what my food philosophy was, I kind of already knew that I was going to have to build something and become an entrepreneur. I started working underneath Chef Gary Danko.
Mm.
I worked with him, and then he gave me like what it means to be excellent in the kitchen. The quality of the food that was coming in, his expertise, within this space was just amazing. So it really gave me a different lens on what it meant to have the best product, what it meant to be a great chef, and what leadership and skills were needed to advance in this space. And then after doing internships with him, I did exactly what I thought that I wouldn't do, and I went into recipe development for the Burrito Shop Corporation. At the time, they had like these World of Wraps came out where they were throwing like, Korean food and Thai food and all different types of like, cultural cuisines into like a burrito, and you wrap it up. And so I was a recipe developer doing that for a year. And then, just like I said, working at different restaurants. And then I became an executive chef for the Willie Mae Skybox. And that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Just to
I'm
say.
glad you said that instead of an A's, because I'm a hardcore Giants.
Yeah, are you a Giants fan? Yeah,
Hardcore.
we hosted some of the best events in the Bay Area at that time. We had, like Snoop's birthday, all the Giants' birthdays, Barry Bonds. Everybody used to have a party there, and so it was just a really live time and a really
Yeah.
good time to be a chef in that space. So moving past there, I went out on my own. I started my own catering company.
What's the first thing you did where you did, because I like your background that you work corporate. So you
Mm-hmm.
have some structure to follow versus someone who wakes up one day during the pandemic and says, I want to create and make money, and they go at it, which is great because we want that. We want them to scale. But you had that background, so what was the first thing you said? Let me develop a menu, develop the cost, and then market it. Talk to us about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a chef, the first thing that people do is like it's the creativity. It's like, oh, you don't really think about the whole business structure of everything. You're like, oh, I can cook, this is my creativity, this is my passion, you're like an artist, right? And then shortly after that, you're like, wait a minute, I need to understand the structure, the corporate structure of how to actually build a business and what are some of the things that you need. I did pay my dues by doing, weddings and just all types of events um, that didn't pay as much as I would like. Um, and then moving forward, uh, moving that corporate structure that I had from being a recipe developer, um, it taught me from an employee standpoint because it didn't teach me um, the business part of catering. So I had to learn by going to school. I had to learn by talking to other entrepreneurs. At that time there wasn't like social media, so there wasn't like, oh, just click here for a business
Mhm.
information. It was like, no, you had to get your butt up and go to score. You had to attend these classes,
Yeah.
those that type of
like
thing.
like the old days where Jay-Z and Diddy, you hear stories where they used to just sell their albums at the trunk of their car because
Exactly,
they didn't have.
exactly.
Yeah, no, I love this hustle. So what did you learn from there? Because we learn from our challenges, and we learn from I don't even say the word failure, because you
Yeah,
you kind of sort of have to fail so you can fix it, because you don't want to go too long without failing, because then it's harder to handle, right?
exactly. I mean, what I've learned from that experience, which took me into my model that I have now, after social media, the corporations, the tech companies in the Bay Area started to grow, then I said, well, it only makes sense for me to model what they're already doing. So they already had
Don't reinvent the wheel.
yeah, don't reinvent the wheel. They already had a diversity and inclusion, sort of protocol with written within their structure. So they wanted to hire minority businesses. So I made sure that I got myself together to be able to go into these businesses. So I've worked
And,
with
and, and for our viewers, what that means is that you were minority-owned certified, women-owned certification. Because for those of you watching the show, what she's talking about is that a certain percentage of a budget every year for these big companies is to give out to contracts for vendors of color or minorities, women. So I got
yes,
you. I got you.
yes.
You thought I was just playing hip hop. I know my stuff.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, so basically getting everything, certified and ready to go. And so I was vetted into, Facebook and Google and Twilio, and just pretty much I did a really good
How
job
long?
by.
How long had you started the catering company before you landed those contracts?
So like I said, when I was younger, I was doing all types of events, just weddings and just, here just things that really didn't pay a lot of money. I was just trying to learn the business and just understand how to cook volume and all those different things. So that really did teach me the skills that I needed. But then I had to upgrade my business skills and get the certifications, get all the workman comp, the insurance, everything that you need to be able to go into a large corporation and a business.
Yeah.
And so that took me probably like it was a decision in 2016 when I started the second end of my business, where I was like, at first I was like, I didn't want to cater anymore. I was just gonna do small events, very particular. And then I said, well, let me figure out how I can work in the corporate catering space. So in 2016, I started working in a corporate catering space. I started with an event at Twilio, and that was an event called Twilio After Dark. And literally, thousands of people came to that event. there was a lot of other entrepreneurs and a lot of other employees that worked at different tech companies that were there that were able to try, and me, I was able to hand out my card, and then I was just ready to go. From 2016 all the way to last year 2020, I was just banging out events, um doing several events, and it was really really good, and then everything stopped with COVID.
No, yeah, no doubt. And then I'm sure it allowed you to rethink Chef Mimi Empire, right?
Exactly.
And we'll get into that. But for the sake of the catering startup, what is the one thing you look back and you say, I'm glad I did that because it helped me execute this?
Well, I'm glad that I was able to sort of to be intentional about who I wanted to partner with in terms of my business. So I literally just cut everything off and was just like, I'm going to stick to corporate catering. I'm going to stick to corporate contracts. One, because there was already, it was already a call for diversity. Two, it just made sense because I'm already in the Silicon Valley area, San Francisco, San Mateo, Oakland.
I
And
like
then three, huh?
I like that. You got clarity. Because
Yeah,
you can go crazy trying to wait for people to order, the consumer, the retail, which is a leg of revenue. But you said,
right.
let me focus on this because you have a set contract or consistent in some ways, right?
hmm Definitely. And then just being able to do a good job and to perform in the way that, we need to show up with everything that we are, because, as a black owned business, sometimes people become afraid to hire you, and they're like, oh, how is this going to be? So we definitely have to make sure that we show up, and we show up with our excellency.
As much as food and music have no barriers, it's
hmm
funny you say that because when I look at you, I think, chef, what you got that you can cook Italian food? Or
hmm
can you give me some, Latin food? But corporate America probably says, Chef Mimi, yeah, maybe we'll do it during Black History Month or Martin Luther King holiday. Or they'll look at me and say, hey, Chinese New Year, let me get you. And I think
Right,
we got to demystify that, especially we're so fortunate to live in the Bay. Could you imagine living in some redneck hick town in the Midwest,
right,
So we're very
right.
fortunate to have these high, we get something for paying high cost of living here. But I like that. What are you seeing in the industry? Because we do have an increase in the food business for folks of Black and Brown community. What is the one thing you're seeing that they're doing that you can give them advice to not do to save them that, even though we want to learn from mistakes, what are you seeing that they're doing wrong so we can give them advice?
hmm Well, I think it goes back to the preparation of making sure you have all your business in order. Making sure you have your workman comp, your insurance, making sure you have your contracts, your catering contracts, and making sure they're sealed tight, to protect yourself and also protect the customer.
Yeah.
Um, Making sure that you're very clear on what you're going to be doing and what needs to be set up and how you're going to enter the building. Um,
Uh,
Making sure.
Real quick, you are
Mhm,
so right about that because if you are a chef today's day, right? Because you did it back then where there was like less social media, so
mhm,
it wasn't as competitive, right? So if you are a chef in today's day and you're going into a corporate where you've got hundreds out there, you're gonna feel intimidated when they first ask you how much is it per person, because they're not looking at the artistic part of it. They're looking
mhm.
from a business to feed their HR and their staff. And so
Right.
you have to be efficient, offer the option, and then when they ask you for your invoices, they've got to be all legit, right? I'm sure
Mhm.
it's just like anything, right? So that's good. Um,
And then also too, like with corporate catering, sometimes they have a net 30, a net 60. So you have to figure out, are you able to wait that long? If you're a really small business, sometimes people can't wait that net 30, net 60, net 90 to get paid. So you need to also know that going in. How long
Explain
is
to our viewers what that means, because that is so important, especially with me and my festivals. I deal with sponsors, Fortune 500
Mhm,
companies, so they're at 90,
mhm,
and so I
mhm.
have to explain to our viewers what that net 30 I like this talk.
Okay. So that just means like it's gonna take, 30 days. Net 30 would be 30 days for you to get your payment. 60 days, 90 days, usually 90 days will be like the maximum amount of time. But if you're a really, really small business, sometimes that could be, a hardship for you. So I think that it's important to talk with the company and let them know. The more that they know, the better that they can support you. So maybe there's a different option. So sometimes, I would use Square, like a credit card, maybe as an upfront payment and then do a net. So there's different ways to kind of
Yeah.
negotiate the payment, but just being aware that that's pretty much the standard, especially when you're working with corporate. But
Yep.
there's also other ways to do it. So just kind of figuring out like what your model is,
Well,
how.
I say before they figure out their model is this is why this conversation is good
Hmm.
because they should have 10 Chef Mimis, 10 Armandos to say,
Right.
hey, what you got? Because they start off with the hustle, the artistic. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I resonate with you because I'm backwards. Like, so I'm working on some restaurant concepts. I actually work backwards. I look at the financial revenue that it has
Hmm.
to hit to be worthwhile to the investors and myself. And then I have to see, is that goal executable by the menu? So I never
Hmm.
lead in with, oh, I want to do an Italian concept in
Right.
Oakland because there isn't, any that I like. I don't do that. I look at how much is the rent, how much is the operations going to cost, and how much revenue do we want to make it enticing to the investor, and then work backwards with the concept, right? I think that's what I do.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like in terms of restaurants, when you're looking for a restaurant, you need to look at before you even do anything, you need to look at the kitchen because the kitchen is going to tell you how much revenue you're going to be able
Yep.
to make. Now, if you have it, because some people go in and they see like this huge, front of the house, and it's very enticing because they can get 200 people and all that, and then they got this super tiny ass kitchen, and it's like you can't produce
Yeah.
what you are trying to do with the front of the house being so big and the back of the house being so small. Refrigeration space is everything, location is everything. So you need to have enough space to be able to produce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. And nowadays, I mean, that's for another interview. I want to interview every quarter to see your progress and your update. But
Mhm.
nowadays, you don't even need sitting space because look at the way COVID's changed. It's not going to be normal.
Exactly.
So actually,
Mhm.
all you need is a kitchen, 6 tables, make it unique, and then a lot of fast casual out.
Yep.
Catering's got
Yep.
to go. Meal prep's got to be there. People want to eat at
Mhm.
home, so you can have products to sell. I mean, I'm actually excited. Given these challenges. So back to
Mhm.
you, if you could snap in 2 years, where does Chef Mimi want to be?
So 2 years, I've literally taken myself out of the working chef mode. Just to kind of rewind the tape a little bit, after COVID happened and the catering just kind of went down, there was other ways that I was able to kind of recover. Google called me and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like trying to figure out. And they were like, "Can you do virtual cooking classes?" And I started doing virtual cooking classes, and then from there, Impossible Foods called me and several other corporate clients that I've had, so I started working with them, working with the Battery in San Francisco, and just doing like corporate cooking. So now I'm doing it with schools and I'm doing with
Yep.
corporations, and so it's been good. It's been a different business model, and I'm now adding that into what I've already been doing,
Yeah.
and so I'm just excited. So 2 years from now, I believe what this looks like for me is the largest, food and wine festival for people of color. I've already done. We're heading into our fifth year. The Black Food and Wine Experience is expanding to different cities. It is expanding the platform and then bringing it to the table. We'll get back to that at another time.
Yeah.
The cooking show will be hopefully a household name. So that's
Oh, no
that's
doubt.
two.
And we're gonna get into that, but I'm gonna go on record on camera and say, listen, you've got your festival, I'm launching mine. We will do a badass pop-up collab. Like
Yes.
best of the best. I'm very competitive. And I think with you, we can put our talents and our people, our communities on the map. Not
Mhm.
just the best black and brown, but the best festival that
Mhm.
happens to be black and brown.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
I'm
And
excited.
we love our allies. We definitely love our
Yeah, no,
allies.
and that's the thing. It's allies is like, I guess I don't want to go political, but allies is like to me like a politicized term because in the Bay we already grew up this way,
Mhm.
right? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Berkeley, Oakland.
So you know there's diversity. It's not
Oh
different
yes.
to you. It's not any difference to you to see a Latino or Asian or Black person hanging together. So
No.
that's one of the reasons I say the Bay is just the good thing is it's underperformed because
Mhm.
the good thing is people like you and I can put it on the map.
Right.
Right? I just think there's a need for new faces in the industry. Some of the chefs we all know and that everyone knows they've been dominating the Bay for a long time, but they really didn't help out folks like us, and nor do we expect them to, because I'm not about free handouts. I'm about creating our own shit, right? So that's
Right.
good. Let's fast forward to bring it to the table. Your show, I love the trailer, man, and I'm going to be on the next one. But tell me about the show. What's it about? How did it inspire it? Where's it going to be viewed?
Okay, so Bringing It to the Table was shot in 2016. We I got to go back to just when I talk about this show, it gives me a really good feeling because I've I've put a lot of energy and my soul and passion into this project. Um, the reason why I created the project is because I wanted to see more Black chefs, Black winemakers within the landscape. So I've mentioned to you before that I have been doing this for a long time. Before Instagram, before social media, I was always talking about, diversity, like where we need to be, what we need to do. And I just did not see representation in the manner that I felt was authentic,
Mhm.
on places like the Food Network and so on. So I decided to create my own show, Bringing It to the Table. It follows 7 African American chefs with tons of different styles, just to kind of show the diversity within the space.
The talent,
Um,
talent.
the talent is just, it's amazing. We've got a chef from Africa, we've got chefs from New Orleans, we've got vegan chefs, we got all different types of food philosophies and backgrounds and talent on the show. It's filmed right in the heart of Oakland, and so right now we're just switching out some of the content just to kind of update it, with what's going on currently. And the content is super funny. A lot of the chefs have moved away from Oakland. Actually, Chef Lamont is the only one here, and myself. And so,
Shout out to Chef Lamont. I know Lamont.
yeah, Chef Lamont.
You,
So,
you can't blame
um,
me for chefs for moving. The A's moved out and the Raiders. You know I'm always going to jab at that because I'm a
right,
hardcore
right,
Giants.
right. So we've got Chef Nelson from Alomar. He's on there. We've got
That's it.
yeah. So
So
Nelson.
tell me what it's about. Bring it to the table. Is it a competition or is it just a
Yeah.
documentary showcasing the? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's a culinary competition.
Mm,
The chefs are running around, grabbing all the different ingredients from the liquor store all the way to Whole Foods.
I love that.
Uh, we got a chance to shoot in the Oakland Whole Foods area, and we got a chance to shoot in Bottles Liquors down in West Oakland. The
I
cool
like
thing
that.
of so one of the signature competitions is the liquor store challenge, where the chefs have to go into the liquor store at Bottles Liquors in West Oakland, which is a changing community. However, people there are still, there's not access to healthy foods in grocery stores. So we partnered with Mandela Foods, who actually offers fruits and vegetables to 7 different liquor stores throughout East and West Oakland. And we did a challenge where the chefs had $8 and 8 minutes, and they had to go into the store, and they did not know what they were doing, why they were at this store. And then boom, there was a challenge. And
I
so
love it.
you'll get a chance to see them running throughout the store, and they have to make a gourmet dish um, out of the foods that they got from the liquor store.
I like it because for Latinos it's called bodegas, right?
Hmm.
And there is a big issue in obesity and lack of nutrition in the Black and Brown communities. So I
Hmm.
like that you're saying, hey, you don't need to go to Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or the public market.
Hmm.
In your local. And I like
Mhm.
you doing that. And that's what I do over here. So no, I love it.
Mhm.
Whenever the show is ready, let us know. We'll launch it out. Even we do a little pre-party, something sexy and dope once this, county or this state opens up. So let's have some fun questions. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
What's your pet peeves in the business?
Oh, I got a lot.
Well, give me one because you got three more questions and they're gonna be
Okay. Um, I guess my biggest pet peeve um is just I feel like this a small group of chefs, that are black chefs and black people and brown people that are working within this industry. I feel like we need to work together. We represent such a small percentage of this huge industry, um, that there's enough room for everybody. So my thing is it doesn't take a lot to support somebody else, even if they're doing the same thing that you're doing. Like you want to do a festival that's similar to the one I'm doing, you can do that, I can do that, and we can do one together.
Yeah.
So it's just I just feel like that, we need to learn how to support each other, um, and it's a pet peeve of mine when people have a mindset of scarcity, you
Yeah.
know?
Let me say a couple of things to that. One, um, yes, the fact that you and I didn't know each other, I reached out, you're like, yeah, let's do it. Right? That
Mhm.
alone means that you're open, not closed-minded.
Yeah.
Number two, the collaboration and the being open to help other people, unfortunately, that won't change
Mhm.
unless folks like you and I lead by example.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? Because I
Exactly.
think people are followers by osmosis, right?
Mhm.
And the same thing goes in the Hispanic community, man. You know how many times I'll DM people and like, hey, I want to get you on my podcast, tell your story, and they don't like. Why would you say no? Unless
Right.
you like what you live in a state that has no COVID.
Right.
But to me, I like it because I will succeed just the way you are, and I'll go
Mhm.
back and say, here's where people go wrong. They
Mhm.
think that they can stop learning. They think that they can stop getting to know the industry and other folks that are just like them 10 years ago, you know?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
like that. And then I will say this, it was about you, but I want to say this. There is, you said something about that we are a small representation of the huge industry. I'm
Mhm.
going to flip the script. While you're doing something dope with the Black Food and Wine Festival, and I'm doing some awesome with Comidazo, is that the labor force in culinary
Oh, yeah.
is
Speak on it.
90% us.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
the reason why you're on this show is because you're a business owner, you're creating a festival, you're creating a brand, you're doing all this because I want to help inspire more business owners from the back to the front.
Mhm.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to change the game. We're not going to expect Congress, we're not going to expect the celebrity chefs to help us out. I've never
Right.
been like that. We're going to create our own shit. So I
Yep.
like that. Now,
Yep.
give us your pet peeves in society.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, it's not just food. You're woke, Chef Mimi.
Let's see. Pet peeves in society. Um, uh, I would say it's not so much of a pet peeve. I just want people to know that, just like what you just mentioned, that we're able to we have more control than what we think we have. It doesn't take someone that's so big to help you. Like you can just start where you are, and it's okay to fail. So I just want everybody to know, like, whatever your dreams are, it's so much information out there. Grab a hold of your dreams and don't feel like you can't do the things that you want to do
Good.
because of someone else's,
Lack of
lack or
assistance.
or,
Yeah.
or exactly. Just continue to thrive. And I don't like to see people when they get down and they feel like they can't do it because they're on social media and they're comparing themselves to other people. Just be you. We need you. We need your energy in the world. So whatever you decide to do, it's all good.
Man, that deserves like a Whitney song, but I don't have it quick enough to put on there. Did you vote in this past election?
I did vote.
Good. I always ask that question. I don't care who people voted for yet, but
Mm.
I want to show our viewers that we are business owners. We have diversity. and we also contribute to the society. Because before we say, hey, they're not doing anything for the Black community, they're not doing anything for the Hispanic, Latino community, they'll do it when they see that we vote in numbers, and
Yeah.
then we create change. So it's beautiful to see folks like us that are voting. Every guest, probably 99.6% of my guests have voted, and the ones that didn't vote realize that voting locally is even more important than nationally for the president, right? Because it impacts our business. All right.
Absolutely.
So the world is ending. Last dish on this earth, what would it be?
So you said if I had the last dish on earth for me to cook or eat?
No, eat. It's the world is ending.
Oh.
I have to rephrase the world is ending because I asked somebody your last meal on earth. He was like, "Am I gonna go to prison again?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a repeat offender." So I had to rephrase that question. If the world is ending, what would be the last dish you want to eat?
Ooh, that's a good question. If the world is ending, what would I want to eat? I would say I would probably want to eat, man, it's between shrimp enchiladas and fried chicken. Like, I'm
I like
trying
them.
to think.
I like them both. I like them both. I like, if shrimp is done right and it's at that 96, 95% cook, it's still so juicy.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
actually better than a lobster.
Yes, it is better than lobster.
Do you like shrimp with the shell on or shell off?
You know what? I like them both. If I'm doing like a shrimp peel, you have the shrimp and you pull it off, and it's just the whole hand mouth movement is fun. So, I love shrimp just in general. So I like
Yeah.
them, all types of ways.
Shrimp is my favorite, and you're right. Sometimes I'll do the shell so crispy, and whatever flavors you're on it, you suck that up.
Hmm.
You just have the canvas of the meat. I love it.
Exactly.
We know what we're talking about. All right,
Right.
last question. 3 people, dead or alive, to have dinner with. Who would they be?
Let's see. 3 people dead or alive to have dinner with. It would be my dad,
Mhm.
my son, and um Jay-Z.
Ooh, that's badass right there. That's the guy I look up to the most. That's badass. That's badass. I like that. And what would the conversation be?
With Jay-Z or with family?
Well, you got all 3 there.
Okay, so the conversation I would just want to listen. I think my dad has a lot of wisdom. I would definitely want to talk to my son, and Jay-Z, I just would I like to hear his voice. I like to listen to his stories because I know that he came from the bottom and he rose to the top, and I love to see that he's turned into a strong man, and he had he's the type of person that understands entrepreneurship but understands his value, and
Yes.
that's the one thing that I appreciate about him, is that he understands the value. My
What
dad understands the value, and I would want my son to be there to listen to the wisdom between these 2 men.
because those are 3 different eras. Your son's
Hmm.
future, your dad's history, and Jay-Z's path currently, right? So I like,
Exactly.
because I think Jay-Z's done so much. He's done better things, activist wise and business
Hmm.
wise to inspire than his music, and his music is just as dope. You know,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
he just writes business like 444. I tell everybody that album is a business plan.
It
You
is.
have to listen to it and absorb it and the mindset, and it's just crazy, right? So that's cool.
Yeah.
That, see, like, I'm sure you've been interviewed before by other hosts, and they didn't go in deep on shrimp and
No,
444. Just the
they
way it is,
sure
right?
haven't.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
when I was listening to 444, I was just like, ooh, the whole time, just like
yeah.
he's just dropping it. It's like boom
Our,
right there.
our collab pop up will be 444 themed. How about that? The music has got to go with the experience that you and I provide with the food and the wine. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
So
Chef,
I
me,
can't wait to show you the Black food and wine experience, and just what I've been able to deliver over the last 4 years, going into our 5th year. Just a dope event. The vibe, everybody says that the vibe is just incredible. You've
that's what
got people dressed up, they're going out for a night. you've got, winemakers, you've got, you know, tastings from different chefs. You've got the music, you got people dancing, you got businesses there. It's just we got our trap and coffee area by Red Bay. We've got all of the winemakers there. It's just a dope vibe, and it's super electric,
Yep.
you
I
know.
want to be there. I want to be there. I can't wait to connect with you in person. I want to thank you for being on this show. I know that we're going to be doing some dope shit in the Bay because I'm telling you, man, there isn't a true go-to ground 0 to 1 faces in the Bay. And I believe that's going to be you and I. So Chef Mimi, thank you for being on the show. And I'm looking forward to having you on the show again. All right.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you. Peace.